Hi, and welcome to the Sleep and Nutrition Supporting Sleep Through Diet webinar presented by Somnolence Plus. I'm Laura Brigance, and I'm a nutrition specialist and certified health coach with a Master of Science in Nutrition, and I'm also the founder of Truewell Health and Wellness. Now, I initially began my journey into nutrition with a scare that my husband's cancer had returned after 10 years of being considered cured. But my interest in sleep and the link to nutrition started when I became a mom. And my first baby really created a just mega severe lack of sleep, even 3 months after birth. And it caused me just to have these debilitating panic attacks. I spiraled into postpartum depression to the point that I was afraid that I may actually hurt my child and essentially just feel like I was going completely crazy. And after getting help from my physician to slowly correct all this, starting with getting the baby to sleep and thereby allowing me to sleep, I began putting pieces together of how sleep and nutrition interplay. Now, as a nutritionist and health coach, my story is echoed over and over again, and not just with moms, but also with dads. And an interesting pattern that I've seen is that once the baby starts sleeping, it's very difficult for parents to get back to a healthy sleep pattern, which affects their diet, their stress levels, their emotional regulation, and ability to focus during the day. And every downward spiral that happened appeared to begin with a decline in sleep, whether or not it was caused because of having a newborn baby. Just, basic entry into adulthood with constant stressors to simply make ends meet and comply with professional expectations, not to mention relationship stresses. All of these things compound into this dramatic increased need for quality sleep. So when I began adding sleep into the equation for my clients' wellness plans, in addition to nutrition, I noticed some things that confirmed my suspicions, and then later my research. Clients were seeing even more weight loss and improved gut health, lessened anxiety and depression, sustained energy all day long, and even though we were focusing really on 4 pillars of health, it really all boiled down to 2 major factors that are necessary for life: nutrition and sleep. No matter what the nutrition goals were for my clients, if they weren't getting quality and enough sleep, their outcomes weren't nearly as favorable nor as quick as when we started focusing on sleep as part of the action plan. So one thing that we've noticed as far as trends go is that, when we're looking at sleep, there really is a drastic climb in interest even since 2004, for better sleep. And it makes it pretty obvious that more and more people are looking for solutions to improve their sleep. Current statistics actually show that more than 35% of adults get less than the minimum 7 hours of sleep recommended every night. And it's even less in certain parts of the world. And this severe lack of sleep is becoming an epidemic, causing a decrease in focus and productivity, problems controlling appetite, which has been posited to be a huge contributor in the rise in overweight and obesity, as well as a huge negative impact on mental health, which is a really big deal right now. So, as young adults, many of us never put the pieces together regarding the importance of sleep and how it affects other systems in the body until we have demanding jobs, and especially once we become parents. Having young children puts an especially significant strain on sleep. It's generally in this season of life that we begin to understand that large importance of sleep, whether we consciously connect sleep with our other body systems or not. Now, although my practice primarily caters to women, the effects of lack of sleep and the domino effect on all the other systems in the body overflows to men as well. It applies to everyone. Sleep affects your diet, your energy levels from those nutrients affect your motivation to get in your movement every day. And a lack of that movement can directly affect stress levels, which thereby can prevent proper sleep, resulting in what you see here in this cycle: the relax, sleep, eat, move, and then all the way back to relax again cycle. All of those work together. In my nutrition practice, I call these the core 4 pillars of health. But research shows that these relationships aren't simply a one-direction cycle. They can each all affect any given other component of these 4 pillars. And it seems that the most difficult to address are diet and sleep. And a really exciting thing about these two is that past limited research indicated a connection of better sleep with only a very small list of specific foods. But more current research is finally indicating that sleep quality is also associated with better overall nutrition. In fact, there are 3 cycles that have emerged connecting sleep with metabolic processes in the body: the appetite sleep cycle, the inflammation sleep cycle, and the blood sugar sleep cycle. And the interesting connection with all 3 cycles are that they can all be addressed with proper nutrition. So the first cycle that I want to talk about is the one traditionally covered and thought of when it comes to how sleep and nutrition interplay, which is the appetite sleep cycle. Now, when it comes to this appetite sleep cycle, mounting evidence from research has revealed a link between getting proper sleep to help regulate hormones that then control appetite to assist in making healthy food choices during the day, and therefore proper sleep regulates ghrelin and leptin, which give the ability to make healthy food choices. Enough and quality sleep are required for the regulation of those hormones, ghrelin and leptin. So if we, look at this diagram and think of kind of the balance and counterbalance of ghrelin and leptin, this is what we're looking at. Ghrelin initiates feelings of hunger, and when enough and quality sleep are not obtained, ghrelin levels will rise, causing higher levels of hunger throughout the day. The other result is a lower level of leptin, which suppresses the feeling of fullness and satiety, further contributing to feelings of hunger and overeating. So if we were to think of this in terms of a faucet, when we have higher levels of ghrelin, which are on the feed me side, this diagram shows that, where it's more of the blue droplets, versus a lower level of leptin, which is the hormone that tells us that we're full. And then the reverse is true. Leptin initiates that feeling of fullness or satiety. And so if these hormones are working properly, we have more leptin once we're eating and lower levels of ghrelin that normally tell us that we need to eat. Both of these are this sort of counterbalance and cannot operate properly if we're not getting proper sleep. So when enough and quality sleep are not obtained, ghrelin levels rise, causing the higher levels of hunger throughout the day. And then that other result is a lower level of leptin, which suppresses the feeling of fullness and satiety, and it further contributes to those feelings of hunger and overeating. Now, although initial research showed a linear connection with this, more current research has shown that the reverse is true as well, meaning it's not just a linear link, it's actually a cycle. Proper nutrition results in better sleep quality and longer sleep duration, which then affect ghrelin and leptin, allowing more healthy food choices for proper nutrition, and then the cycle continues. The second cycle is the inflammation sleep cycle, which involves the relationship between cortisol, inflammation, sleep, and nutrition. Evidence from research reveals that proper nutrition assists in inflammatory regulation, which leads to better sleep. Stress has been found to influence sleep quality and disturbances. When you don't sleep well, researchers have found that cortisol levels can rise the next day. This can lead to a host of issues, especially if stress is chronic, and it can result in a vicious inflammatory cycle. Now, let me show you some factors that influence sleep on a daily basis. Although not all of the factors are here that influence the timing and quality of sleep, melatonin, cortisol, and body temperature play important roles in sleep. When melatonin is released, it acts like a signal that sets off a series of reactions that prepare the person for sleep. Body temperature fluctuates during the day, and in the evening, body temperature dips and drops to its lowest point when a person is asleep. In terms of cortisol, the green or yellow line, cortisol levels typically dip towards the evening and then rise during the morning and into the day, which is typically the opposite of what happens with melatonin. Although melatonin and cortisol are regulated by the suprachiasmatic nucleus, your circadian rhythm pacemaker, they are independent in terms of their own particular rhythms. When a person has normal levels of cortisol, they'll have a cortisol level somewhat like what we've depicted in this figure with the green line. Now, when you're stressed, your body goes into fight or flight mode. Here's something that could potentially happen to you. There are some other factors that play in. This is a simplification of the process, but here's the scenario. Let's say that there's a medical emergency in the family that began the previous night. You weren't able to sleep well the night before and you had to go to the hospital, even though you also had a major deadline to meet at work. In addition, you also had to pick up your children from daycare and school before heading back to the hospital today. If a person has higher levels of cortisol, because that person is experiencing stress throughout the day, like in this scenario, then you'll see something like the yellow line. Now, if that person releases more melatonin in the evening and has normal cortisol levels, you'll notice that this person will begin to fall asleep a little after this point. However, if a person is stressed, sleepiness will set in a bit after this point, which is later in the 24-hour day. Cortisol levels basically act as markers for stress levels. Also, higher levels of stress can potentially lead to more fragmented sleep, as shown here. And like the appetite sleep cycle, although initial research showed a linear connection, more current research has shown that the reverse is true as well, meaning it's also not just a linear link, it's actually a cycle. Proper inflammatory responses result in better sleep quality and longer sleep duration, which then affect the body's ability to regulate inflammation, and then that cycle continues. And the third cycle that interplays with nutrition and sleep is the blood sugar sleep cycle. Now, this cycle involves the relationship of our sleep with our glucose-insulin balance. So here we're looking at the levels of blood sugar throughout the day on a high sugar diet versus a balanced diet. Now, did you notice that this slide has circadian rhythm? That's because our blood sugar levels are higher at night as part of the circadian rhythm. We're familiar with the circadian rhythm as a general concept and how it influences timing of sleep, but it also influences hunger triggers as well as appetite and blood sugar levels. It's important for us to remember that it plays a role in blood sugar spikes, and these are higher at night as part of the natural daily rhythm. The problem is that when we have higher blood sugar levels due to poor dietary choices, this bumps our nocturnal blood sugar levels up even further during sleep, which can cause poor sleep. You'll notice in this slide that with proper nutrition through a balanced diet, the line in green, that blood sugar levels stay stable during the day, and this allows normal blood sugar and insulin regulation during sleep as well. With poor dietary choices, you can see the yellow line has dramatic ups and downs, and this follows into the night. The higher level of blood sugar follows into the night, causing that much higher blood sugar level that disrupts our sleep. And as the other two cycles, research also shows that it is a cycle instead of just linear. Proper nutrition helps keep blood sugar and insulin balanced, resulting in better sleep quality and longer sleep duration, which then affect the body's ability to regulate blood sugar and insulin during the day, and the cycle continues. But here's where the paradox of this sleep nutrition connection comes in with all three of these cycles. When we have research indicating one condition is needed to result in the other condition, as well as the reverse, it can be very difficult to distinguish which should be addressed first. We then have this sort of paradox of the three cycles. Which comes first, and where do we start for improvement? How do we eat healthy to sleep properly, or sleep properly to eat healthy? How do we manage our inflammatory responses to sleep better when our sleep is already poor, but we need to sleep to manage the inflammation? And then how do we manage our blood glucose insulin levels to sleep better when sleep is poor and it makes the blood sugar levels out of whack? Since all three pose the problem of a vicious cycle, a sensible starting point is building the foundation on what we can control, and a fantastic place to start with that is our diet. Now, in my practice, we create our wellness action plans, but without knowing specific conditions for personalized adjustments in nutrition, all three of these cycles can be addressed with general proper nutrition. And the nutrition framework is a two-pronged approach, which is balance the blood sugar and calm inflammation. In our trainings, we take a deep dive into that two-pronged approach as the source to support sleep through nutrition. We're going step by step into the process and how to use it to address all three of those cycles that can affect and be affected by proper nutrition in terms of sleep. And this is just one entry point into sleep improvement. There's a second entry point that you can learn during our trainings. This is where you can take a much deeper dive into not only helping your clients to improve their sleep with nutrition, but as a second entry point, learn how to improve sleep to support good nutrition. To learn more, come and join us in our trainings and conferences. So reflect on your takeaways from this connection between nutrition and sleep, and don't forget there's an accompanying worksheet for you to download. Thank you so much for your time and interest in supporting and improving your clients' sleep through proper diet and nutrition.